Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org and welcome back to another PHP video tutorial for the new Boston. Now we've already looked at creating files, putting content into files. Now what do we want to do if we want to delete or we want to rename files? So in this video we're going to go over a couple of functions with deleting files and one function to rename files. So we have a function that specifically deletes a file that we specify, and then a function that renames a file to a file name of our choice. So I've got a file here called file-to-delete.txt, and I've got a file here called file-to-rename.txt. Now I'm not going to be using any examples in this tutorial. I'm just going to be showing you the functions and how they work, and we're going to be testing it in the video. But why might you want to delete a file? Well, let's just say you were allowing your users to upload files. You may be storing them somewhere, say in a database, or you may be giving them access to a link that maybe would let them delete the file. So if you wanted to allow your users to delete files that you've uploaded, then obviously this function that we're going to talk about in a moment is going to be useful to you. Now, why might you want to rename files? Well, first of all, like my prior example about the deleting the file, you may want to give your user the option to rename a file that they may have uploaded. You also might want to rename a file that already exists on your server. For example, if you were allowing users to upload files but you wanted to keep these as a hidden name, you could say generate an MD5 hash if you know how to do that, or you may generate some random numbers and call this file, let's say, a value of random numbers.txt, for example, obviously depending on whether it was a text file or another file type. So I've created this file called file-to-delete, and obviously we're going to be deleting this, and then I've created a file called file-to-rename, and we're going to be renaming this to a file name with a random number as the text of the file name. We're going to keep the extension .txt though. So let's just open up our browser so we know what we're doing. We can see the file.php is the PHP file that we're currently working on. This is where we're going to be performing our actions from. And we've got file-to-delete.txt, which we can keep an eye on because obviously we want to delete this, and file-to-rename because obviously we want to rename this file. So let's go ahead and talk about how we're going to delete a file. Now you may think that the function would be something like delete, but we actually have the function name as unlink. So we call the function like this. It's always a good idea to put this into an if statement. Once we've done it with the first argument, it only takes one argument. I think there's one argument which is an absolute must, and there may be other optional arguments, but go over to php.net and look up this function, and you'll be able to find specific information about it. So the argument that we give this is the file that we want to delete with regards to the whole file name. So let's go ahead and type file-to-delete.txt. Now if we were to run this program, it would delete the file. However, let's go ahead and put this into an if statement, and the first block is going to be if this is true. So in other words, if this file has been successfully deleted. So inside here we can say echo file has been deleted. We could also, just to make things run a lot smoother, and you're probably going to be storing your file name in a variable anyway, we can give a file name variable of string data type just up here. So let's go ahead and put the file name into a variable called file name, and then here let's reference that in there. So what we can do is we can say file and then maybe create some strong tags here, and we could then concatenate on the file name itself. So you can see how it's easy to reuse the same file name that we've specified up here. So otherwise we want to give an error message. Now we're going to be performing a test that is actually going to activate this error message, and that's going to be when we've already deleted the file. So once we've deleted the file, we're not going to be able to delete it again because obviously it doesn't exist. So we're going to be showing this. We're going to be running this script twice. The first time it's going to successfully delete the file, and the second time it's going to return us an error. Okay, so let's go ahead and put some text in. So file cannot be deleted. just for example. You can obviously reference this variable in there if you want. It's entirely up to you. So as it stands, we're going to unlink the file name, so we're going to be deleting this file to delete.txt, and then we're going to be giving a confirmation message to the user. So let's go ahead and run this code and see what result we achieve. So let me just refresh the page, and you can see that the file to delete is still there. So we can double check if this is working. We're making sure it's there first of all. Let's click on file.php. Okay, so file to delete.txt has been deleted. Let's go back and refresh, and you can see that that's been deleted. So now what happens if we run the code again? This function is not going to work because it's not going to be able to find the file specified. Let's click on that. Okay, so we get a warning up, so unlink file to delete, no such file or directory, and we've got our error message up here. So what we can do is we can actually change our code. It says here file has been deleted. We don't want to keep that in the editor. So what we can do is we can change our code, and we can put an @ symbol before this, so we're not going to get this warning up in PHP. Let's go ahead and refresh, and you can see that we've just got our plain error message on its own. So now we've successfully looked at deleting a file. What happens if we want to rename a file? So let's go ahead and get rid of everything on this page. Okay, so we want to rename this file to a random array, if you like, of numbers. So we're going to be using the rand function to generate a large random number, and then we're going to rename this file here to that random number and then .txt. So we're still maintaining the file extension. Okay, so let's go ahead to file.php. Let's first of all specify the file name in a string data type. So this is file2rename.txt. Now let's go ahead and create a random number. Now if you haven't already looked at creating random numbers in PHP, we use the rand function. So let's go ahead and say rand is equal to rand, and this is going to take two parameters. It's going to take a lower and an upper limit. So we can say set our lower limit to 10,000, and we could set our upper limit to 99,999. So this is going to generate a 5-digit number between these two numbers. So this is the lower and this is the upper here. So the function name that we use is simply rename. So remember before I said delete isn't as obvious when we use the unlink function, but with renaming we just use the rename function. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's say rename. Now this is going to take two parameters, obviously, because what we need to do is specify the file name to rename and also what we want to call it after that. So let's go ahead and we'll say rename file name, and we're renaming this to rand. Remember, you need to append on .txt because we're still maintaining the file extension. So if you don't append on a .txt, this rand value is just going to be the file itself. So we're just going to have a number. So it's going to be an unspecified file type. So again, let's go ahead and enclose this in an if statement. So what we're doing is we're checking that the file has been successfully renamed, and then otherwise we're giving an error message. So let's go ahead and say echo file, and then we can append on file name, and then we can append on has been renamed to, and then we can append on the file name that has been renamed to, so rand, and then it's .txt. So we'll put that in strong, and we'll put that in strong there, and then file name. So it's just basically basic concatenation of string data with the inclusion of variables. So otherwise, let's go ahead and say error renaming. Okay, so this is going to happen, this error is going to be produced when we've already renamed the file name to the random.txt. So like I said before, the reason you might want to rename your files to a random number is to keep them hidden from users. You may have this random number stored in a database somewhere, so your database knows where the file is, but your users don't. So they won't be able to look at the file specifically on the server. There's many reasons why you'd want to obviously rename a file, but I'm just giving this as an example. So let's go back and refresh. You can see that we've still got file to rename.txt. Let's go into file.php. So now it says file to rename.txt has been renamed to 41975.txt. Okay, so we've successfully renamed it to a random number. Now let's go back again and let's refresh, and you can see that that in fact has changed to 41975.txt. So in this tutorial we've looked successfully at the unlink and the rename function, why they might be useful, and we've just given a brief example. So remember, when you put your functions inside an if statement, what we're doing is we're checking that this function is successful. Therefore we're only giving a confirmation message when we've successfully, let's say, renamed or deleted a file. Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org, and this is another tutorial for the new Boston. In this lesson we're going to be talking about file uploads. Now this is a really popular topic because lots of websites now tend to deal with file uploads in one way or another. It may be, for example, uploading an image or uploading a document, or even uploading something that needs to be processed at some point. So how do we handle file uploads in PHP? Now it's relatively easy to handle file uploads in PHP, and for the purpose of this tutorial, if we just open up my browser, you can see that I've created an uploads folder here. The script that we're currently working with is upload.php, and we have another directory inside this directory called uploads. Now the purpose of this tutorial is not to talk about security in file uploads, it's just simply how we take a file, allow the user to select a file from their computer, and then send it to a specific directory. As this tutorial stands, the code in it's not safe to use on a web server, because in actual fact the user will be able to upload any file at all. For example, they could upload a PHP file, and they could mess around with your server in pretty much any way they like, as with exe files, things like that, executable files. So in this tutorial we're going to be learning how to upload, but we're not actually going to be learning how to protect against it. There is another tutorial I have in this same file upload series with the security discussion in there and how to secure against your form data. So how do we start? Well, we're going to start with a form first of all, and we're going to create the form in exactly the same way as you'd usually find. So our form action, we're going to be going back to upload.php, so we're going to be processing the file data inside our tags up here, and the method is going to be post. Remember, we're sending a large amount of data, so we want the method to be post. Now there is one additional attribute you need to supply in this form tag, and what we need to do is we need to supply the enc type. Now this is the way that the data in the form is encoded when it's sent, and we need to specify this to be multi-part, and it's /form and then a hyphen and then data. So this is basically going to allow us to process the form and enable file uploads. We're sending a large amount of data, and this is the encoding type. This just tells, when we process it, tells how we're going to encode the data. So now we need to go on to allowing the user to upload a file. Now you may have come across this before, but we use input type and this is file. So this has already created our button, our browse button if you like, and I'm just going to call the name of this file. So let's just break down, and we'll create a submit button, which is probably important. So submit, and name, or value rather, is submit. Okay, so let's refresh our form and see our page and see what we've got. Okay, so we've got an option to choose a file here and a submit button. When you do click submit, we're going remember we're submitting back to the upload.php page. So if I come up and I click choose file, we're presented with an open file box where we can choose a file type. Now in this tutorial, or in the next tutorial when we do with security, we're only going to allow files with the JPEG extension to be uploaded. So in this case, all these pictures here are JPEG files. So if I was to click on a file, for example, the file name's displayed. That's just how my browser displays things. It might look a little different in other browsers. And then I can click submit. Now at the moment nothing's happened because we don't have an area inside here or a function inside here that's going to process our file upload. So we've submitted the file, everything's worked, but now we need to grab the name of the file, the temporary location of the file. In case of comparing file sizes, things like that, and extensions,
well, for the extension we need the name, but just as an example here, I'm going to create a few variables and then show you how to grab the data of the file, or different parts of data. So we use, well, in this case I'm calling this name. This is going to be the file, the file name of the file that's uploaded. So it's $_files, and then here we put the name of the variable name. So this in this case is file, because it corresponds to what we've put in the form here. So that's file. And then just like when we use associative arrays, because this is stored as an associative array, we use brackets next to it, and in here we just type name. Now what this will do is this will show us the file name of the file that we've uploaded. So hopefully when we click submit, this here is going to be picked up by this here, and then we're going to grab the name, which is the file name, and then echo it out. I've just put an echo in front of there. So let's give that a try. We'll click choose file, and I'm going to click this here. So this is called Worsley_Nicola_1.jpg. So if I click submit, above here we've echoed out the name of the file. So in actual fact, as this page stands at the moment, we've gathered data about the file, and it's still there for us to use. So we can specify a few other as well. So let's just delete that echo. Another is size. So this is going to echo out the size of the file, or store the size of the file. So we use exactly the same structure, and it's just size in here instead. So it's name for name, size for size. We also have the type of file. So we have type, and that's $_files again, and that's file because that's the name of our form field. And then we just have type. Now the temporary location, or the temporary name of the file, is a bit different, and I'll explain what this is and why we need it basically. And this is TMP_name. Now the temporary name is slightly different to the other attributes in this case. What we have here is when we do process the file upload, each file is sent to a temporary location on your server. So I've just uploaded this file here called Worsley_Nicola_1.jpg. This has been stored in a temporary location on my server, ready for us to process it and put it somewhere relative to where we want it. So at the moment we don't actually have anything in file in this uploads folder. Although we've processed this file upload, we haven't actually moved it yet. So bear that in mind. This is the temporary location. We also have this error that we can access here. So that basically returns an error. I think it returns 0 if there's no error, but 1 if there's been an error processing that. But we're not really going to look at that just yet. So we've got name, size, type, and temporary name. Not all of these are required to actually upload the file, and the ones that are not required to upload the file are this, and in fact name. But what we want to do is we want to keep the same name as the file as we've uploaded it. So we need, in this case, temporary name and the name of the file. So underneath here, what I'm going to do, the first thing I need to do is check whether we've actually chosen a file and we've submitted the form. So we can do this with the isSet function. So I can say if isSet name, and in fact you can incorporate others in there, but I'm just going to be assuming that the file has a name, which it would do in most cases. So if isSet name, what we then do inside here is we can echo out something just to test. So OK, for example. So if we come back to our form as it is and we don't select a file and I click submit, it is set. So if isSet name, then we need to do another check saying if not empty name, do something, otherwise do something else. So here we can just say please choose a file. Otherwise we can say everything's okay, because this will presume that we've selected a file from our computer, we've clicked the submit button, the two if statements are validated to true if the file is, first of all, if the form has been submitted, and second of all, if the file has a name, which you presume it will do if the user select a file. So let's just, we won't choose a file for now. go back to the page that it is, click submit, and it's telling me please choose a file. Now what I'm going to do is actually choose a file, click submit, and it's telling us it's okay. So this is some basic form or validation to make sure that a file is here. Now what do we do with the file once we know it's there and we've performed these couple of checks? Well, what we need to do is we need to move the file from its temporary location to a specified location, and this specified location is in the uploads folder. Okay, so I'm just going to put uploads and then a trailing /. Now what we need to do is we need to use a function called move uploaded file, and we need to give it two parameters. The first one is the temporary location, which is temporary name. In fact, before we do all this, let's just kill the page there and echo out the temporary name so you can get a general idea of where it's being stored. So let's just pick that file there and click submit. You can see that this is being stored in c:\examp temp, and the file name is php c279.tmp. This is the file that we've just uploaded. However, it's in an unusable format and it's not in the location we want it in. So let's get rid of that and we won't kill our page anymore. So move uploaded file, you need the temporary name as the first argument to this function, and the second is the location. So I'm going to say location. Now we do need to add something else onto this. We need to give it a name. So fair enough, we're uploading to the uploads folder, but now what we need to do is append on the end of it a file name here. Now obviously we already have the file name, so we don't need to specify that ourselves. It's just simply name, because we're taking the file name of the file we've uploaded. So to make sure this works a bit better, I'm going to enclose this function in an if statement, and then if the file is successfully uploaded, I'm just going to echo uploaded. Okay, so now let's test this out. Let's go back to upload.php. I'm going to click submit and it's telling me to please choose a file, so that's just testing our validation. I'm going to choose this image called worsley_nicola.1.jpg, and if we go back to our in fact we'll just quickly go back to our folder and make sure there's nothing in here. So there's nothing in here at present, so let's choose that file and click submit, and it says uploaded. So we've processed everything that we've written already with no error. Now for the interesting part, let's go back and have a look at this uploads folder and see if it's uploaded, and in actual fact it has. So we can click on this and preview it in our browser, but we've successfully uploaded a file. Now let me just take you through the stages again. We grab the name of the file itself, which is here and here, and we grab the temporary name, or this is the temporary location rather. Then what we do is we're checking if the form's been submitted. Then we check if the file exists, so have they selected a file. We specify a location in a variable, which is the uploads folder, so this corresponds to the folder here. And then what we do is we say if this is successful, if this function is successful, and while we're performing this if statement we're calling it as well. So we're uploading from the temporary name and we're renaming it into this location with this file name here. So obviously I could say I could specify here, let's put it in uploads/image.jpg. Okay, so now what I could do is click on upload.php, select a different file, click submit, and you'll see that it will have put it into the exact location I've specified there. However, what we want to do is we want to do it based on the file that the user is uploading, and obviously I've just stored this in a different variable. Then we echo uploaded if that's okay. We could obviously add something here to say there was an error. Now, so this is how to basically upload a file. As you can see, there's sort of a lot involved with it, but once you get the hang of it, it's easy to do. However, what we haven't done is we haven't performed any validation on the file itself. So as it stands, I could upload a PHP file, I could upload an exe file, I could upload anything I basically want. So in the next video, we're going to be looking at how to secure the form and only allow a JPEG file. Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org creating this video for the new Boston. We've already looked in file uploading at how to actually upload the file. Then what we did is we went on to look at the security, so we made sure that this file could only be JPEG or with the JPEG extension, and we did that in two ways to ensure that we had the maximum security possible. However, what happens if we want to check the file size? Now, file size is actually processed through in bytes, so we can uncomment this now because we want to use this. So let's just echo that out, and then we'll comment out the rest of this code so we can preview the result of this. So let's just go and choose a file. We'll choose this image file again and click submit. Now you'll see that this file has been returned at 145,801 bytes. So we can automatically tell by looking at it with simple maths that this is a 145 kilobyte file, nearly 146 kilobytes. So we can use this to allow ourselves to process files. Let's say we don't want a file over 2 megabytes, we don't want an image file over 2 megabytes. So let's say we are going to stick with our 2 megabyte maximum allowed file size. Now the way we do this is we can easily work this out using Google. So if I just pull up this page here, you can see I've already typed 2 megabytes to bytes, and Google's automatically used the calculator to work this out for me. It's 2 million and then blah blah blah. So if we just copy and paste this, we can copy and paste this into a variable in our code, so we can get rid of these comments now. So I want, as well as, let's just get rid of this echo as well as extension up here, I now want to create a variable under size saying max size. So I'm going to make this equal to this number. Obviously we want to pull in the spaces so we've got it as an integer. So the max size is this. So we need to now perform a simple check to see if the max size is less than or equal to this size. So what we're going to do is we are going to modify this here, and we're going to create another and, so we're using another logical operator here with and we're saying and size smaller than max size. So now we need to modify our error message accordingly and must be 2 megabytes or less. Okay, so now what we're doing, as well as checking for the file extension, we're also and then checking that the size is less than, oh I forgot the equals to, so less than or equals to max size. So this is basically going to work now. So let's just double check. I don't actually have a file available that's more than 2 megabytes at the moment, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly decrease this value, and I'm going to say 100 kilobytes. So the maximum is 100 kilobytes, which is 10,000. Well, it's not exactly because of the you know, just how it works out. But we could more accurately calculate that there. So for now I'm just going to say 100,000 bytes. Okay, so let's open up our choose file. Now let's get rid of everything in our uploaded folder, just so we upload this. We've got one file in there. Let's just get rid of that. Let's pop a star in there and we'll delete that one there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to upload 2 files. Because I've now set my limit to roughly 100 kilobytes, because this file is more than 100 kilobytes it won't be uploaded. It's 142 kilobytes. So if I click on that and click submit, you can see that we're now getting the error message, file must be JPEG and must be 2 megabytes or less. So you can modify your error message accordingly, or you could do 2 different if statements, one to check the extension and give the appropriate message, or you can do one and you could do one to check the size and give the appropriate message there as well. So now let's choose this file.php. Now this at this point, just to point out, if I was to change this to file.jpg and I was to try and upload this, you can see at the moment it's being uploaded, and the reason for this is we need to change our if statement slightly. I've just realised from the last video that we need to make an adjustment. So we also need to say and type equals equals, and we need to say image, and we need to say JPG. Okay, so now let's try and choose this fake JPEG file, which is actually a PHP file, and we'll click submit, and it's giving us the appropriate error message. However, let's just say I was to, I don't know if we have an image here that's under 100. Oh, there we go. We've got one here that's 54.3 kilobytes. So let's try and upload that. We click submit, and it hasn't worked. So let's go back again, and this is just my logic. We need to let's just first of all enclose this in brackets so we can see what we're doing properly. We need to say if type equals image JPEG or type equals image JPG. So let's try again. So as long as you can get your head around the logic of it, which I'm obviously having a problem doing at the moment, you'll be absolutely fine. So let's try and upload this 54 kilobyte file, and that says uploaded. Let's just try and upload the fake file and click submit, and that says uploaded. Okay, so in actual fact, let's go back and just revise our code first of all. So image extension is JPEG or JPG. We also need to say and type equals, and this should always be correct if the file type is a JPEG file. So let's just, and then we check for the size. So let's just go through this again. So let's try and upload first of all just a normal file. Okay, so the size is bigger than 2 megabytes. So now let's try and upload one that's under the size, which is this one here. Click submit. Okay, so that's been uploaded. Now let's try and upload this file.jpg, this PHP file we've renamed, and that's still been uploaded. Okay, so I think probably at this point, if a user were to rename a PHP file to JPG, there's nothing that they can actually do with it in terms of on the server. It will still be uploaded as an image file. Unless they have access to the server to rename it, I don't think it actually matters at this stage. However, as it stands, we are securing our form as much as possible with regards to only allowing JPEG files to be uploaded. We're using the extension and the type. Obviously by changing this, we've changed the type, so we have a bit of a problem there. But nevertheless, we'll just test this out quickly and type an echo next to the type, just to see what happens when we upload this. So let's click submit. Yeah, you can see it's image/.jpg. That's just simply because we've renamed the file. So I think for now we've secured it quite nicely. Our files have been uploaded, and we've checked for the size. Hello, this is Alex from phpacademy.org, and this is another video for the new Boston. Now, we've already looked at file uploads and how we can upload different files, or any file rather, which is thinking about it quite insecure. Now, let's say you had a website that allowed their users to upload images. You might want to specify a select amount of file types that you can accept, and those, or you don't need to specify those you don't accept, but you do need to perform checks. Now, at the moment, I've uploaded a couple of files. So these are JPEG, but what happens if I go to upload a file that perhaps doesn't have a JPEG extension? Now, obviously we haven't specified anywhere in upload.php where we can't do this. So let's go to upload.php, and let's create a new file. Let's say a PHP document. So I'm going to call this file.php. So we'll change that file extension. Now what happens if I select this? You can see it's been selected, and I click submit. You can see that it's actually uploaded the file. Now let's go back to our uploads directory. You can see this file now exists on the server. So if I click on that, that's run the file. Now obviously without explaining, this is very unsecure. We've accepted a PHP file type automatically because we have no checks in place to only allow a certain file type. So how do we do this? Now, we've already discussed in the last video the size and the type properties of our file that we've uploaded. We're also going to, in this tutorial, check for the tutorial size. In fact, we'll do that in the next video because we might run out of time. So we want to check for the type of file. Okay, so where do we start? Let's just echo out what we see here when we upload. So we'll kill the page just here, and let's go back and we'll upload, or click, no, go on upload.php. Okay, so oh yeah, we've killed the script, haven't we? Right, let's comment this out then. Okay, so back to our file. Okay, so I'm going to choose a file, and I'm going to choose file.php again. I'm going to click submit, and it's got application/octet stream. So we could go through a long list of file types we don't allow. However, if I was to click on this, you can see it shows as image/JPEG. So what we want to do is we want the file type to equal this, or we want it to equal like another file type. In this case, I'm just going to be dealing with JPEG. But what we also need to do is take the file name itself, so the name of the file that we're uploading, which is specified here. So let's just concatenate a break onto the end of that for example purposes. So if we refresh that, you can see that this is the name, and this is the file type here. So how are we going to go about checking if this has an extension of JPG? What we need to do is we need to use the string position function and also the substring function. What we'll do is we'll be using the substring function to find where this dot is. Then we're going to be using the string position function to find out where the dot is. Then we're going to be using the substring function to select everything after the dot. So that's it. And then we end up with this JPEG here, and I'm going to demonstrate that first of all, just so we get that clear. So we're going to sort of need to play around a bit with our functions. So let's just, in fact, we'll keep that commented out for now. Right, okay. So let's not echo these out anymore. But what we need to do is we need to start dealing with the extension. So I'm going to create a new variable called extension. Now I'm going to start with a substring function, and this is going to take two arguments. The first argument it's going to take is the input that you want, so that's name, and the second argument it's going to take is where you want to cut from and end. So we're taking in this parameter. We want to start from a specific position, and everything else after that will be regarded as text. So for example, let's assume that we know the position. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So because we're starting at 0, that will be 18. So 18, we've got the extension there. So let's echo out the extension and see what happens. So we'll choose this file, click submit, and oh, okay, maybe not. Yeah, it'll be 17. Sorry. Okay, so let's refresh. So we've got JPEG. Now this we've achieved the result that we want. However, we need a dynamic way of choosing this extension, because we're not always going to rely on knowing how many characters the file name is. For example, if I chose file.php and click submit, nothing comes up because this is not work, because we don't have exactly 17 characters up to the dot. So we need another function which is called strpos, which stands for string position. And what we need to do is we need to grab the string position from name of the dot, okay, and then we need to add 1 to that. The reason we need to add 1 to that is because we're looking for the position of the dot, and then after that, meaning 1 after that, we need to take, and that will be the j. So we find the dot, 1 after that will be j, and then the rest will be pg. So let's just check how this works. Remember, we selected this image file first, and we click submit, so that seemed to return everything correctly. Now let's choose the file.php, click submit, and you can see that it's given us PHP. So just by combining these two functions, we found this really easy way to grab the file extension. And then obviously, as well as this extension here, we've got the type of file here, so that can go up there for now. Okay, so let's remove these, and what we need to do is perform a couple of checks to see if the file is what we want it to be. So we want it to be a JPEG file. So we need to add in, just after here, we need to say if not empty name and extension equals JPG, or extension equals JPEG, because sometimes they can be named JPEG. What we can also check for is, it would be a good idea to check for uppercase as well, because otherwise it won't be allowed. So what we can do is we can actually say str to lower, and what that's going to do is that's going to take the extension name and make it lowercase. So we don't need to check for JPG in lowercase, JPEG in lowercase, and then in uppercase. This is going to automatically make the extension lowercase, so we only need to check 2 times. And then we need to say type equals image / JPEG. Okay, so now let's see, empty. Okay, let's take this out of here actually, because yeah, let's take that out of there, and we'll create a new if statement down here. So if, and we can paste that in there, let's just get rid of that and that there, so it's nice and tidy. So if the extension equals JPEG, or the extension equals JPEG, and the type equals image JPEG, then we process this. So let's just indent that so we look neat. Let's just check where that's going to end. That one ends there, that one ends there. Okay, so let's just indent that. Okay, so we've performed a check now, and then we're obviously going to add an else on there. So echo file must be JPG, JPEG. Okay, so let's give it a test. Let's choose a file. We're going to choose this Nicola Worsley file. Click submit. Pass error online 11. So let's go and debug this. So 11 if empty. Oh, there we go. We're missing another bracket on there. That was me messing around. So let's refresh the page. Oh, and 13 as well. Okay, should be there. So let's check what's wrong here. It would be 1 missing on there. So I'm missing out all my brackets. Okay, so that's uploaded. So let's go and check that. That might have just overwritten that file again. Yeah, so it has. Let's just delete these actually, so we can keep an eye on what's happening and what's not. So let's just star in there. Let's just delete these files here. Click yes. Okay, so as far as we going now, there's nothing in here. So let's try and upload our image file again. So choose file. Choose that, click submit. That's uploaded. So as it stands at the moment, we presume that this has been uploaded. So I'm going to click on upload. Yeah, it's there and everything's worked. Now let's go and try and upload a PHP file and see what happens. Submit. File must be JPG / JPEG. So now you can see how we've used these 2 methods of security. We're first of all checking our custom extension, which we've taken from the name, and the original type of the file, and we've checked for that. So we're checking that the file exists. And now obviously you can add in more logical operators to check for different types of file, but there is actually an easier way to do that using arrays. So we'll do that probably later on. So that's basically a bit of form security. In the next video we're going to be talking about how to check for the file size, which we've currently got grayed out here.
Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org, and this is another tutorial for the new Boston. Now in this tutorial we're going to be creating a non-unique hit counter. And by a non-unique hit counter, I mean that every time the page is refreshed, or rather every time we call the count function, because we're going to be dealing with a lot of functions in here, we're going to update a text file with a value, and that value is an increment onto the value that was previously in the text file. So we're going to start off by creating a text file with a value of 0 inside it. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to call it count.txt. So we've got count.txt with 0 in it. Eventually this will increment depending on how many times the page is refreshed. But that's obviously the basics of it. Now what we need to do in PHP is work out how we're going to do this. Now, it's always a good idea to use include files in your website, and the reason for this is you don't have to copy and paste the code over for every page that you want to count on. So we're going to create another new file, and this is going to have PHP tags in it, and this is going to be called count.php. Now count.php is going to contain the function we need to increment a count. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating a function, and that's going to be called, we'll say hit_count. So what do we need inside this function? Well, first of all, we need to access count.txt. So I'm going to create a handle, and this is going to be fopen, and that's going to be count.txt, and we're opening it to read in. So we're using R to specify that we're reading in from this file. Now what we're going to do is we're going to incorporate the fread function into this. So I'm going to say current equals fread, so it's sort of like fread, so fread, and that's handle. Now we need to specify the data that we're reading in, the length of the data we're reading in. So this could be, for example, 2. We might have a 2-digit number. So basically, if I had, say, the word Alex or the name Alex inside a file, we'd need to read 4 from the the length of 4. So how are we going to go about reading what's the, we don't want to read too much and we don't want to read too little. If you've already seen the file handling tutorials, you'll know that we can use the file size function, which we can put in here, to read in a specific file size of a file. So I'm going to create a new variable up here called file name, and this is going to make it a lot easier to update everything dynamically. So I'm going to change this and replace it with the variable I've just created. So this line is now going to do exactly the same thing. However, with file name, we need to specify something like count.txt inside it. We don't specify the handle that we've actually opened, so we can then specify file name. Now what we can do is echo out current and see what happens. So we need to call this function. So let's go into index.php. Let's require, in fact let's include, because it's not really a required file. We don't really want to kill the rest of the page if we can't count people's views or pages views. So include count.php. Okay, so now we can call this function because we've included this file. So I'm going to say hit count. Now at the moment, obviously this isn't going to update the count.txt file, but hopefully we should now write to the screen the value of 0. Let's double check that. Okay, yeah, so we've got a value of 0. Now let's just double check that everything's actually working, and we'll update this to 1000. So the function here, file size, will have taken the size of this, so it will include all 4 characters that we have inside here. So let's refresh. Yeah, so it's working correctly. So we've successfully read in, let's just change this back to 0, we've successfully read in the current file size. Now what we need to do is every time this function's called, we need to increment it. So current underscore inc equals current plus 1. Okay, so what we're doing is we're creating a new variable called current underscore inc. This is basically stand for increment, and that's equal to current plus 1. So now let's echo, well, we can do that up here just to save space, echo current inc to see what it says. It says 1, even though at the moment count is equal to 0. So we're incrementing the value. So we can store that hidden, we don't need to echo that out. But now what we need to do is reopen the file. We can actually close the file here, so close that. So and we need to specify the handle. So what we've done here is we've closed the file. Down here we're going to reopen the file and we're going to write the new value, and the new value is this. So let's just double check that we've got no errors now that I've added that close in there. Let's refresh. We'll echo this out just to make sure it's working. Okay, so we've still got the value of 1. So everything's working now. Now, like I said before, what we want to do is we want to open up the file again, so we can more or less use the exact same code here. And in a minute, I'm going to show you how we can change this, and we're going to create another function that allows us to read or open up the file name again. So we're going to create less code, and we're going to create a more sort of flowing application that uses less sort of repetitive code, if you like. So we'll do that in a minute. So I'm going to say handle equals fopen, and again we're opening file name. Now already you can see we're duplicating code, so we don't really want to do this. That's why in a minute we're going to create another function up here, and I'm going to choose W for write. We could append, but we don't want to. We want to rewrite the file. So we're reopening this count.txt file. Then what we want to do is we want to fwrite. We're writing to handle, and the data we're writing is the current but incremented. So now after this we want to close the file again, and this should have updated our file. So it's updated with the original value plus 1. We've reopened the file, but this time we're writing to it rather than reading to it. We're writing to the file using this fwrite function, and we're writing to this handle, which is the open file here, and we're inputting the current value but incremented by 1, which was obtained from here. And then we've closed the file again. So let's close count.txt, and we'll return here. We're recalling this function, so now what should happen is it should automatically update. Wrong paramount count for fclose. Oh yeah, of course. So we haven't closed the current file. So let's refresh. Okay, so now let's try and open our count.txt and see what it says. So it's got 2 because I've refreshed the page twice. So now let's close it again, and let's refresh again, come back to context, open up this file, count.txt, and it says 3. So now that we've successfully created our hit counter and then we know that it works, obviously now you'll probably understand why it's not unique, because every time we're refreshing the page, we're not checking that it's the same user. So, okay, like I've said before, we've reused this code here, which is handle we've set a handle with the fopen function, and the same with the fwrite. In actual fact, looking at this code, because we're doing 2 different things, I mean, we've got the file name here, and then what we're doing is we're opening the handle, we're actually retrieving data, then we're closing, we're performing this operation, and then we're reopening another file. Because we're doing different things inside each one, probably not a good idea to put this as a function. So I guess for now, this would be acceptable to write this like this. We're not going to need to put another function in. However, because we've created this function, this is a good idea because we've included this count file, and we can specify this wherever we want. So let's say we wanted to include this file but not count. We can do that. But if we include the file, then we have the option to call this function, which will hit count. So if we don't call the function and we refresh the page, you can see that when we open the count.txt file again, it still remains at 3. So this is a non-unique hit counter in PHP. Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org, and this is another video tutorial created for the new Boston. Now, in this tutorial we're going to be creating a unique hit counter, and by a unique hit counter I mean exactly the same as a non-unique hit counter. However, we're going to be recording the user's IP address, and by recording the user's IP address we're going to get a lot more accurate figure. It won't be entirely accurate because IP addresses obviously do change, but we're going to get a lot more accurate figure as to how many unique visitors we have taken on our website, so how many people have visited uniquely. So as per the last tutorial, the non-unique hit counter, if you've already watched it, we've got an index.php file, a count.php file, and a count.txt file. Now we're also going to have to include a new file, and that is going to be called, let's just save this file out, that's going to be called ip.txt. So we're going to have IP addresses in here, of users that have visited the website that are going to be stored every time they visit. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to counter hit it, but then we're going to take their IP address and we're going to store it in this file on a line-by-line basis. So we'll have, say, 127.0.0.1, and then we'll have another IP address on the next line, and we'll have so on and so on. So for now I'm going to leave this blank. The first thing we need to do though, before we do anything, is we need to check that the IP address doesn't already exist. Now we can use the file function in PHP to check or to read in a file on a line-by-line basis, which is then stored in an array. And what this does is it allows us to take each IP address on each line and carefully check each one on each line. So it's a really easy way of doing things. So the first thing we're going to do inside count.php is we're going to create a function called hit_count, and this is going to be called from index.php every time. So we have the freedom, we're including this count file, we're going to include count.php, and then we're going to have the choice if we want to hit count or not. So we can include it, but then we can use it, say inside an if statement, or say if a particular user is using the Chrome web browser, then we can count. So there's a variety of ways, a variety of benefits of using a function. So let's just call this function for now, so later on we can test it correctly. So in count at the moment there's a value of 0. In IP we don't have any IP addresses. So the first thing I want to do is establish the user's IP address. Now I'm going to be using a simple way to grab the user's IP address, and that is using the $_server predefined variable, and we're using remote address. So this is some environmental information about the user. So let's just echo this out, and we can see that that's going to produce my IP address. There's another tutorial on this if you haven't already watched it, and there's also another tutorial about how to properly detect the user's IP address. So I'm using this now for the purpose of this tutorial, but I recommend you look up the other tutorial that I've done and read in the user's IP address, or find the user's IP address a lot more accurately. So this is my IP address for now. I'm using a local server, so it's 127.0.0.1. Let's refresh and just blank that. So we've grabbed the IP address. That's something we determined at the start that we did need to do. Let me just swap these files around. Okay, so we've determined the IP address. Now inside hit count, the first thing we need to do is check if this IP address doesn't exist in ip.txt. There's nothing in there at the moment, so obviously for now it doesn't. So the first thing we want to do is we want to open up this file. So I'm going to create a variable called handle, and I'm going to say file. In fact, we can call this IP_file. So file, and it is ip.txt. Now let's just refresh to make sure we don't have any errors. Okay, we're error free. So what we've done now is we've created this variable called IP file, which is now an array, because the function file opens ip.txt, and let's say we have line 1, 2, 3, it'll open each line as an array, as a value of an array. So we've opened this as an array. Now what we need to do is use the for each construct to grab each IP address in there. So we've got each element of the array. So we're going to say for each IP file as IP, and what we can do to test this is we can echo out IP, and we'll put a line break there as well. So in fact we'll use a comma just to show that we've taken this as each element. So there's nothing in there at the moment, so if we refresh we're not going to have anything on the screen. However, if we add, say, test data new line, just pop a load of rubbish in there, each of these should now correspond for each loop of let's go back to the count.php file. For each loop of this IP will be each line. So let's refresh and test that. So you can see that we're grabbing the data on each line, and we can use this separately, so we can check each IP address. These will eventually correspond to IP addresses. So you'll notice that there's a space after each bit of data. Let's just change these to IP addresses so we've got a more realistic representation. Okay, so let's refresh. Okay, so we've got a space after here. Now you've noticed that we've not actually specified in here that we want a space after it. We've concatenated on this straight away, and that's because when we're reading it in on a line-by-line basis, there's always a space after each element in this array. So what we need to do is we need to use the trim function here to remove the white space from the left hand side and the right hand side, just in case there is any white space. Now let's refresh, and you can see that that white space has in fact gone. So we don't actually want to echo out the IP addresses, we just want to use them inside here. So I'm going to create a variable called IP single, and that's equal to each one. So we can use this variable to check whether the user's IP address, which is up here, corresponds to one already in here. So we can say if IP address is equal to, so using our double equals comparison operator, is equal to IP single, do something, otherwise do something else. Now in actual fact we don't need this if-else statement, we just need an if statement, because if the IP address is in there, actually let's think about this logically, if the IP address is in there, we don't want to record the IP. So what we can say is if IP address doesn't equal IP single. So essentially what we're doing is we're looping through this ip.txt file, we're checking if the user's IP address is equal to this one first, and then we're checking if it's equal to this one. Now if it is equal to this one, or if it's not equal rather, we're going to say found equals false. Otherwise we're going to say, come back up here, found equals true. Now the reason we do this is because we're in a loop here, we don't want to increment the value of the count.txt file inside a loop, because if we increment the value of something in a loop, it's going to be performed over and over and over again. So we want to create a boolean value called found, which is going to be equal to either true or false. Then what we can do is under this for each here, we can then say if found equals false, and in here what we can do is increment count.txt value. So let's just test this first of all. We can echo here IP not found, and in the case of the IP address not being found, we can increment the value of count. So let's just test this works. Refresh. IP not found. Oh, it should have been. Okay, so I think the problem here is that we've declared this outside our function. So what we need to do is if we pop this inside of our function, just in there, and we refresh. Oh no. Okay, so let's try and determine the problem with this. Let's echo this out first of all and refresh. So let's have a look inside our ip.txt. That's on the first line there. So we'll go through and debug this carefully. Probably just something that I've completely missed. So echo that out. And that's 127.1.1. So if that is equal to my IP address underscore address doesn't equal IP single, found equals false, else found equals true. Oh, okay, I understand. So if it is found, we need to say, if it's not found, we need to say found equals, oh yeah, false. otherwise found equals true, and we need to say if found equals true, and we run this, it means our IP address has been found. However, if I was to remove this IP address, we can keep this one and refresh. Oh no, okay, hold on, let's take another look at this. Let's pop that back in there. So this is probably great that I've made a mistake. You can follow me to see what I've done wrong. So if IP address doesn't equal IP single, found equals false. If found equals false is equal to false. Right, okay, I think I've sort of worked out the problem. Now, I'll tell you why this isn't working first of all. I've had a little look at it, and I've sort of worked out what's wrong. So, what's happening is because we're looping through every IP address. First of all, we're going to set the boolean found, the variable found, which is a boolean, to true. And then what we're going to do is, so IP address doesn't equal IP single. Let's change this to equals, and we'll change this around so it's just easier to grasp. So if the IP address in the file does equal the IP address of the user, then found equals true. So therefore, if found equals true, we want to say already, or we'll just say found for now. So otherwise we want to say false. However, when we go through again, it's going to check the second one and put this to false automatically. We're not keeping the same value of found. Therefore, underneath each one of these, we want to use break. So we're only finding the IP address and then breaking. In fact, we can say false. Keep that as false. That's absolutely fine. So now, if we were to refresh, it says found, because it's found within here. So all break is doing is if it is found, we don't need any more information, so we're breaking out of this current loop. It's for each here. Okay, so obviously if we were to put a break here and it wasn't found, we'd break out straight away. We want to keep going through the file until it's found. So logically looking at this, I was confused, and you may be at this stage, but just have a good look and try and understand why we break out.